Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us at the Blind Banter podcast. We are here again with my co-host, Carlos. Hey, Carlos, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well, Lorne. Just finished reading some articles, and that kind of gave me the idea for today's topic. So the article that I was talking about was in the Wall Street Journal, and it talked about how a lot of people, they don't really have anything to do. A lot of traditional gambling sites have been closed. So people are turning to Robinhood and buying stocks, and that's kind of replaced their gambling. And so, me being a finance person, having a finance background, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the difference between speculation and investing, and how, if you're interested, you can actually build up a solid future wealth for yourself, but how also there is some possibility in speculation. So let's jump right into it. So first, I can, let's define some of these terms, and you can chime in here, Lorne, if you feel like you need to. So the way I define speculation is you're literally just gambling, right? It's with stocks, with some kind of financial instruments that can be options, futures, whatever. But you're literally gambling based on some idea or another that you are correct and the market is wrong, right? So if you're buying the stock at $3 to $5 and it's pure speculation, you're just buying it because you think they're going to buy it. Somebody's going to buy more of it in the future, and the price is going to go up. And it's going to go up to $50. That's pure speculation. When it becomes investing is when you have a solid thesis behind it, and you're saying, well, this stock is going to go to $50 because of revenue drivers behind this, and operating income is going to improve because of these improvements in cost of goods sold, that type of thing, right? Or if you just have you just invested into the S&P 500. You have any comments about that, Lorne?
Nah, well, I'm not. Everything I'm in right now is not in the S&P 500, but
well, it doesn't necessarily need to be in the S&P for it to be an investment, right? It just needs to have some solid backing versus because when you're playing blackjack, you're not going, well, I think that the 21 is going to come up because of X, Y, Z, right? I mean, you could be counting cards and it's a little different, but you're still fundamentally gambling. You're not really as certain. Whereas investing, the way I look at it is the odds are a little bit more in your favor, right? If you're investing on the long, and if you're shorting, it's the same thing, but the odds are more in your favor based on whatever the thesis you have, versus speculation. It's just like, oh, well, I see this, stock moving up and down, so I'm going to buy it here and sell it here. And the thing about that is, I think there's nothing specifically wrong with either of these, right? But they're just they're really, what am I saying? They're really two things that are trying to achieve two different aims. So maybe I can talk a little bit more about investing, because that's probably where I have the most knowledge. And Lorne, I know that you're into speculation and it works for you. So maybe you can cover that a little bit, and then we can talk a little bit about investing.
Okay, so my whole entire my entire portfolio is all on speculation, because I don't put a lot of money into the stock market. I've got about $800 or $900 that I actively play with all the time, and I always just look on different boards or different forums, and say if there's an article on company A or company B, I might buy a couple stocks. Now, little differently than how Carlos does it, I don't pay anything more than usually 60 cents for a stock, and 60 cents is still fairly high. My sweet spot is anywhere from about 5 cents to about 30 cents that I'll pick up, and I'll buy a little bit of it and see where it goes, and kind of just flip from time to time. Now, I do lose some, yes, but like anything, you also gain some, and I find that those ones are very much hit and miss. But when they take off, they really take off, because you have a lot to move from, say, 5 cents to 30 cents. Well, it's only 25 cents per stock, but that's still a decent return, especially when you buy a few $100 worth at the beginning. So I like to do speculation because it's always something, and I really like to be active about it. So with that being said, there's many people that will buy a stock and just sit on it for a very long time, but I like to actively trade back and forth. So I'm always buying, selling, flipping, holding, and I don't usually keep a stock for more than usually a week and a half, because that's just how I'm playing with speculation. So I'm always getting a bunch of different types of stocks, but they're also in many different industries that, like, Carlos will actually read financials. I don't read financials. I'll just look at the activity, or I'll read the articles and, oh, this is interesting. So if it's 2.5, 3 cents, I'll buy a few and just go on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think that's actually really good. It fits Lorne's personality because there's different personalities that'll really do well with certain investing styles and others who won't do well with it, right? And the biggest thing that some of the people that I've read who have been inspirations for me in the investing world have always said that you want to find something that's going to suit your style. So if you're a plodding, patient type, you might do better with certain investment style versus if you're, a person who's always drumming their fingers and going up and down, you're probably not going to do as well with the plodding and patient style, and trying to do well with that style is only going to hurt you. But the most important thing that I think about when I think of speculation is that you go into it, like Lorne said, it's $800 or $900, right? He's not putting in his entire net worth into any of this, right? I mean, are you, Lorne?
No, I'm sure not.
Exactly, because he knows that, he can buy 1,000 shares at 5 cents or whatever, and that doesn't, that's not that much. But if he bought, 100,000 and put like $5,000 into it, I'm sure that his wife would have something to say if he lost all of that.
Yes.
So, that's the biggest difference, I think, when you look at speculation, right? It's fine, but the biggest thing that you have to avoid is making sure that you're not putting in money that you can't afford to lose into it. And that's the case with any investment, right? Even the safest thing. I mean, if you would have invested in Sears and Roebuck, in 1970, we're like, this is as safe as houses. And you'd probably be bankrupt today. But
Enron was a really good buy at one point too.
Not if you dug into the financials. But
but again, people like me don't look into the financials, right? They just see movements and they go.
Well, the accounting was actually really complicated. It probably would have been a little difficult for you and me with my cursory accounting background to get the inside scoop on that. But the way I like to buy companies and sell companies is really looking at, like Lorne said, the financials and establishing solid theses for why something is going to move up and down, right? Whether that be, there's different ways of looking at it, right? Some of them are just value drivers. Like you're going, wow, this company is making $2 billion in cash. They're making X amount in revenue. Their margins are really good, and they're only trading at $10 billion, right? That's the current price. Like I picked up a really good stock a few months ago that ended up doubling in price. I sold it at a little bit lower than double, but it was pretty good because I looked at the thesis and I said, well, this is, there's a lot of pent up demand here. I don't know why it's so cheap. So I do that kind of thing. But for most people, if you're not into finance or you're not really actively trying to spend time looking into this, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can go to different brokers and they can offer you advice like that. Or honestly, the safest way is just buy something that tracks the general market, right? Like the S&P 500, which is 500 of the largest companies chosen by Standard & Poor's. And it's in an index form. So you'll get different weightings based on how big the companies are. So it has, all the names you can think of: Facebook, Google, Apple, but it also has some of the oldies like IBM. I think IBM is still in the S&P. And it, Disney, things like that, just big companies. And the odds of all of them going down at once, if that happens, then there's probably bigger problems in your portfolio in the world. So that's a really good way to stay. If you're just trying to put aside some money and you're going, I have no idea what's going on in the market. I don't want to lose my money, but I don't want to make money. I don't want to necessarily spend time, not make money. I don't want to necessarily spend time doing research and all this because I don't really know what I'm looking for. That's fine. You really don't need to, because here's the secret. Most people don't beat the market. Most people do a little bit better or a little bit worse than the S&P 500. And so that's kind of the way to do it. I do it because that's what I want to do for my career. And I think it's good practice, but it's not at all necessary. And, just investing in the S&P, if you would have invested, $1,000 in the S&P in 1970, you'd have $30,000 today, or 30,000. You probably have 10,000. What am I saying? 30. But it's a good amount of money, and it's definitely going to grow faster than a lot of other asset classes out there. So that's kind of my advice for investing. And always remember, when it comes to investing, speculation, anything like that, never put money in there that you can't afford to lose, right? Even if it's the S&P, because if it's back in March, the S&P plunged 50%. Now it's back to normal now, and it's even higher than it was before the pandemic. But if you would have looked at that in March, you might have panicked and gone, oh my God, I put 10,000 in here and now it's 5, right? So always have a long-term view of that, because when you're investing in the S&P, there can be massive gyrations like that on a day-to-day basis. And you can really lose a lot on paper, but if you just wait, it usually comes back And that's why, if it's the rent money, you don't want to have to put that much and then have to figure out how to make the rest of it over the course of that month. So that's
Yeah.
just a bit of advice.
And
Lorne.
there's also different avenues. So if you want to kind of put money away because you want it for a rainy day or whatever, you can actually put it on things called sheltered mutual funds, where you're still going to have some market, I guess, exposure.
Exposure.
So yeah, so if it does really well, you might get you might get a return. In some cases, even if it goes down, your initial investment will never be touched, and it kind of plays that way. Or if it does, it's only 0.5% to 1%. So if you don't really want to go all in and you're very cautious, you can definitely do that. Now, if you want to gain some extra, but nothing too major, but you don't want to have any type of volatility, there's also things like GICs, or guaranteed income certificates, which will allow you to lock in a certain amount of money for, say, a year, 2 years, 5 years, and then you're guaranteed a certain amount of interest. Now, there's going to be fees and stuff if you remove it, but you're going to get some growth from there because they're going to boost up the interest rate, but you're not going to get a lot like you would be able to have through the stock market, but you also won't lose any. So if you're not in it for a very long-term gain, then it's probably best to look at something sheltered if you don't want to lose a lot of money. But if you're okay with using the right amount of money for yourself. So I started off with $100, and over the last 4 or 5 years, I'm now up to 800 or 900. It's not a lot of money, but I do take some out every year, and sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, and those types of wins and losses will be pulled out. Like I used a bunch for my wedding, but it's nothing that if I was to lose it tomorrow, would I be angry? Yeah, but it's not the rent money. I'm not going to lose anything, and I'm not really going to put my family in hardship. So it's kind of like what some people would go to take the money to the casino. It's roughly the same type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel very comfortable with it. So playing around with it, whatever happens to it, well, happens. But that's why I like the whole speculation game, because Carlos when he buys stocks, it makes a lot of sense for him to look into the financials, because he doesn't have an issue paying $30, $40, $50 for a stock. And so as you buy more and more stocks, of course, the money's really going to be increased. But when you're only throwing down, say, $150 at a time for a stock, maybe upwards of $200, it doesn't have the same kind of sting as if you're putting in $1,000.
Exactly. And guys, I just want to give this disclaimer here. We're not acting as registered investment advisors.
Yeah, no.
This should be just taken as like, hey, look up your own research. I mean, I don't want you guys to like take this advice and go, oh my God, Lorne said to buy these guaranteed income things and I lost money. I'm going to no, guys, this is not supposed to be like investment advice. We're just trying to offer a good way to like establish a foundation.
The beautiful thing is that you'll never lose money with the GIC because the bank holds on to your money. So.
Well, regardless, you don't know.
Yes.
The bank might go under. You don't know, Lorne. Don't ever discount that fact. But yeah, this should not be taken as investment advice. We're not trying to offer investment advice or like how to structure anything. It's just more about trying to.
Yeah. Always talk to a financial planner or a financial individual that's licensed at your local bank or your financial institution.
Exactly.
Just to ask. Now, again, what's on Canada's side compared to the American side is two completely different things, and vice versa. So it varies so drastically. So definitely contact the person that you trust or that you deal with, like your local bank or institution.
Exactly.
And just to confirm with them.
I would also, I would do that just as a matter of course, because
always,
there's always benefits based on what you do, right? Like maybe your employer offers some kind of structured investment product that you can use and that's going to be tax-free, that they're going to give you a little help with the capital gains tax. There's all kinds of different benefits to working through your local bank. So definitely do that, and don't jump on Robinhood or any of those apps just because you heard me saying this or you heard Lorne saying that, right? It's just supposed to be a little bit of kind of guidance on how to build wealth, because I think that's one of the most important things that people in general need, right? Is, you should have stable income, you should have a stable job or whatever, but it's also really important to have a stable basis of wealth. And for a lot of people, that's their house. but I think it's definitely useful to have something like stocks because it's one of the best performing asset classes. And I always like to see more people, get into at least dip their toe into the water, so to speak.
And always, if you have a very rare employer that will match, say, a 401k or your retirement fund, definitely utilize it. Always utilize it, because it's free money. And no matter how much you put in, say $25 a paycheck, $15 a paycheck, every little bit's going to help. And realistically, that's a couple cups of coffee a week. You're not even going to notice it. And then, pretty soon you've got this huge amount of money and you go, wait, where did that come from? Oh yeah, I didn't even pay attention to it.
Well, one of the
So,
things I learned early on, and that this is going to sound terrible, and I told Lauren this a few years ago, but like one of the things I started doing was started smoking. And you guys might be going, oh my God, you smoke cigarettes? No. It's quite the opposite, actually. Instead of actually smoking, I would put away a little bit of money, $5-10 every couple of days, right? That kind of thing. And act as though, yeah, I'm paying for smokes. But in reality, it's going into some kind of fund, whatever that might be, right? Or even if you just literally put it into a safe deposit box. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that per se, but regardless, right? Even if you're just putting the money away and saving it up for a vacation, that's literally one of the best ways to save up money for a vacation or invest or whatever it is, because literally you're acting as though you have this need for cigarettes or whatever, and you're putting aside $5-10 a week. Realistically, you should be putting aside like 20, because that's how much they are nowadays. But yeah, like if you put aside that little bit and you just kind of you leave it there, like Lauren said, by the end of the year, you'll be, wow, this is $1,000. How did I get this? And it's the little bit that like normally you would waste on whatever, right? Like maybe you buy a bag of chips at the store, and you don't even realize those $5-10 that you're just trickling away. And that's kind of one of the ways that I think is really good to like save up for a vacation that you're trying to take at the end of the year, or maybe you're trying to buy your wife something nice, your husband or whatever it is, or even for yourself. Maybe you want some nice alcohol. You can buy yourself a nice bottle, and you won't even notice it. Do you have any other little tips like those, Lauren?
I do. So in Canada, if you have a disability and it's considered to be something that's going to be with you for long term, so if you have blindness, it's definitely considered to be under it. There's a thing called the disability savings account, and the registered disability savings plan. And the RDSP is probably one of the best savings type products that you can possibly get. It's offered by the Canadian government, and what it'll do is you're allowed to have up to $250,000. It's designed to be there for when you retire. And the beautiful thing is that the first $500 you put in, the government will match it 3 times. So you put in 500, they'll put in 15, your 500 turns into 2,000. Now, after that, if you put in another 1,000, they'll match it up to 2 times. So now you're up to $2,000. So if you put in a total of $1,500, you'll get roughly $5,000 out of it. It is one of the best savings plans you can possibly do. You're allowed to use it up until I think it's 50 or 55, and you can start drawing it at around 60. Now, there are some other kinds of guidelines that after 10 years you can take out a certain amount, but then you have to give a certain amount back to the government, vice versa. But it's literally hands down the best savings plan you can possibly get. So if you're even putting in, say, $20 a paycheck or $20 a week, you're literally utilizing everything you can 3 times. And it just makes so much sense to do it. And it's just a great way of doing it. So definitely look into that if you're in Canada. Because it's going to be very difficult, and it's going to be very rare to find those types of returns through the stock market.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know if anything similar here. I'm sure that there are some plans out there like that. That's probably one area where I'm a little bit less well versed, I would say. Is Lorne is really he seems like a detail guy, whereas I'm just like, hey, I can buy this company and make money here, right? But I don't know, like, hey, use this account. And that's really where, like I said, that's really where your financial advisor comes in, because they will be able, like, you might have a unique situation because you work for
Yes.
company X, and company X does like this great program that makes you do this and this and that, right? So that's why it's really useful to talk to somebody like that, because we could say everything we know, and there's probably still some benefits that you're leaving on the table if you would follow our advice type thing, right? So it's better to talk to a financial advisor. I wouldn't say disregard everything we say, but like everything, take it with a grain of salt. That's the one thing I always learned
Yeah.
in investing, is anything
Or
anyone tells you.
write it down, take it to your financial advisor and go, hey, by the way, does this work with my situation? And they may go,
Yeah,
oh, absolutely, or no, it wouldn't work.
yeah, exactly. Because there's so many different
Oh
things,
yeah.
and I just wanted to get this out because I saw that so many people were going on Robinhood and just like, there's nothing else to do. So I don't really blame anyone just going on there and like, ooh, I'm gonna buy this one. My friends told me to buy this company. Looks like a good one.
Spin the wheel where it stops, nobody knows.
Right. It reminds me of Joseph P. Kennedy, the patriarch of the Kennedy family, used to say this, that in 1929, he's the one who like sold all his stocks before the crash. And people said, whoa, how did you know that? He goes, when the shoeshine boy started giving me stock tips, I think I knew it was time to get out. Like, so that's kind of where I draw the line too. Like when people start telling me, oh, you should buy company X, I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get into company X. I'm probably going to get out of company X actually. So yeah, and always take just anything in general that everyone tells you about investing, right? Take it with a grain of salt. Don't disregard it. Don't take it reverently. Always take it with a grain of salt, because unless they're like your financial advisor, because that's literally what their job is, right? But if it's like some dude, like your friend or some lady, she's like, oh, I'm into stocks and I made 10,000 last year. I'm going to buy this one. This is the next Amazon or whatever, right? Like, always take everything with a grain of salt, guys, because I can't tell you how many times I've seen those ads that are like, this is the next company, whatever, right? Like, name your company that's successful today. Guy who bought company X at $3 says you should buy this one, and it's like
It's like those people, buy gold, buy gold, buy gold. It's the next thing. Well, now, frankly, it is the next thing right now. It seems to be going absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I have been seeing a lot there, like the top 3 gold stocks. Click here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always a little thing like that. A few years ago it was, Bitcoin and different cryptos. Now it's gold. 5 years from now, it'll probably be something else, right? There's always the thing. And frankly, if that's like Lorne says, there's a possibility that you could hit pay dirt on actually one of those speculations. So I'm not saying to not do it. It's just, you never want to put the rent money down, and you always want to make sure that you're making a decision that makes sense for you and your pocketbook.
Time is cyclical, history is cyclical. So eventually everything will come around again of some sort or another. It won't be necessarily say Bitcoin, but whatever the Bitcoin would be, say in 10 or 15 years. But the thing is A, you don't know what that is, and B, hindsight is always 2020. So you may have gold or silver and you may hold on to it because you like precious metals. Now, if you're into that hobby, fantastic. It works out really well when, it starts creeping up to $35 Canadian per ounce for silver. But if you're just trying to hold something for hoping that it'll be increased in value, it's usually a very long play unless you can really hit it that way. And again, it's literally taking a dart and trying to spin the wheel and see where it goes. So
yeah. And I'm a gambler.
Yeah.
Like, I love gambling on, basketball games, even though I don't know anything about basketball. But that's exactly it, right? I don't go, man, I got to make the rent this month. This is $1,200 for rent. Let me go put this 100 on the Lakers and see what happens. Because then that doesn't. I have had it go well, but I also have had it not go well, and it's like, ooh, that hurt tonight.
But
so
the beautiful thing is that after a couple hours per se, the outcome. So you're not holding on to this.
Well, no, but on one team to win the finals,
right
at the beginning of the year,
right,
25-1.
But you'll know but you'll know this the season, right? It's not going to be like, okay, I'm going to hold on, I'm going to go out and buy $10,000 worth of gold, and hopefully, someday soon it'll increase in value, because then you're starting to pay for storage costs, and you're starting to pay for a lot more incurring costs.
Keep it in my house.
In time.
I'll sleep on it. But there's always something. What was it? Like, gambling is always going to be fun, and that's probably one of the biggest things you need to look at when so many people get into the market and then they start gambling essentially, and they don't even know it, and they think they're investing, and they put all their money into one thing, and they're like, this is the next big thing, and there's nothing worse than seeing that go down, and that's kind of one of the things. Like, I like to save my money, because if I buy a case of, let's say I buy an AirPod, the AirPods Pro or whatever, right? It's $250. I can put that into an investment, and in 10 years, that's going to be, $2,500. So for me, that's kind of how I look at it.
Well,
I'm like, wow.
It could be $2,500.
It could be, but it could also
or it could be $2.50. Yeah.
Right. It could also be like 0.00025, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But the point is that I like to put aside some money, because I want to make sure that I can have, wealth, in my opinion, is the most important thing, right? There's obviously income, but wealth is like kind of that basis where you're like, like Lorne said, when you're 60, you're not, retired and being a burden on your children because you don't have anywhere else to live. So, you want to be able to go like, hey, let's go to Palm Beach. And it's like, all right. So that's kind of my philosophy for why I put aside some money. And realistically, like I said, that smoking thing, it's a great idea, because there's really
no, absolutely.
Like, you notice it a little bit where you're like, oh, $20 here. And I'm not gonna lie, there are some weeks where I don't put aside anything, right? Because I'm like, but if you think about it, a smoker, like a real smoker, doesn't have that choice, right? Like, if you're legitimately a smoker, you don't have that choice of going, you know what, this week I'm just not gonna buy cigarettes. Next week I'll buy some. But as a person, for me, I sometimes have some other expenses and I just don't have money.
Now, if you're a shoe smoker, it's not. I'm not going to buy anything this week. It's like, okay, well, I'm not going to buy anything tomorrow.
It's like, I'm not going to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I got the idea. And you can do that with anything, really. Whatever it is, right? Maybe for you, it's like sugary foods. Like, I know for a while, for me, like, when I used to be huge. I mean, I think I weighed like 240 pounds at one point. And I started losing weight. I lost like 60 pounds. It was ridiculous. But and one of the things I realized was that I was saving so much money because I wasn't making those late night runs to like get food. Like, oh, I'm gonna go get a meatball sub, and like I wasn't doing that anymore. And that meatball sub might have only been $5.50, $6. But if you don't get 2 of those a week, that's an extra $12. It starts to add up. $48 a month. What is it, like $500 a year, right? $500, man. That could buy you a new Apple Watch. So yeah, it's there's always somewhere you can skimp out like that a little bit and end up saving some money. And most of the time, it's actually healthier, right? Like, you quit smoking, you put it aside, or you quit eating so much and you put it aside.
Yeah, like when I quit smoking, I had smoked for about 7-ish, 8-ish years, roughly. And so I finally stopped the month before I went to go get my first guide dog, because I thought, well, labs are prone to getting cancer as it is, so he doesn't need to be smoking. He doesn't need to be smoking secondhand.
You're gonna stick a cigarette in his mouth.
That's right. One for you, one for me.
Yeah, exactly. I'll light it for you.
Yeah, exactly. So
I got your beard.
So I ended up stopping, and after about 1.5 years, we actually took the money that we saved, and my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, we went to Cuba. We went to Cuba for an entire week, and that paid for being in a 4-star resort, completely all inclusive, and paid for our plane tickets. And it was just, from doing that, and we also had spending cash. So
from smoking.
Yeah, exactly. So my body's healthier, and we get to kind of do a little bit of traveling and enjoy the sun. So
that's probably
it's amazing. It's amazing how much money you save.
Yeah, that's probably the next tip I would have, is look at because anyone has these unhealthy habits, right? We might be like, oh, well, I don't smoke, but you probably have another unhealthy habit that you put little money over to. And for me, it was eating, right? Like, that was where I would put, like, ooh, I want this chocolate bar. And that kind of like, I'll tell you the story that one time I attended those. They looked like Hershey bars. They were Milka chocolate. I don't know if you had those, Lorne.
Oh, I love Milka.
Good.
Oh, so good.
So good.
Yeah.
But I ate I got a 10-pack on Amazon for like $20. And I ate the 10-pack over the course of a weekend. It was just, it was ridiculous. But
it's so tasty.
It was so good, but it was just, come on, man. After 10 of those, you feel like trash. Right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So like, that was my thing. And that's what, like I said, like, you put that money aside, it really does add up. whatever it might be for you, you can do that. And most of the time it'll be not only financially healthier for you, but also physically healthier for you. And
Well, I had a friend that would go to Starbucks every single day and get an extra pump of whatever. And each pump was, I think it's like 20 or 30 cents.
Ooh.
But she would go every single day. So 7 days a week and every single day. Yeah. So what she ended up doing was I'm like, well, why don't you just quit that and see what you would do? So I think it was like 30 cents. So every month she'd save herself enough, and over a year she saved enough money, and she goes, wow, like that's a lot of money just for not getting one pump of flavoring in it. And over time she obviously her taste buds were adjusted to it, and then she started kind of going downgrade, not to as fancy as 6 or 7 different ingredients. So she was saving roughly $1 now, and that was definitely enough money.
Well, I'm a big coffee, like, I guess you'd call us snobs, but I'm I love coffee. Connoisseur, exactly. I'm a connoisseur of a lot of things, but regardless, one of the reasons why I started drinking my own coffee is because I realized I could make myself a really premium cup of coffee for like $1, maybe $2 if I was getting like if I was going real fancy with the beans. And it was really good versus what I could get at the shop. The cheapest I'm going to get at a shop is $3. And I have to go there every day, and I can't just brew it on my own. And there's a whole lot of elements involved there. But that's one, right? Like Lorne just said, if you go to Starbucks every day or whatever, I'm not belittling Starbucks, but just you go to your coffee shop every day and get it.
Yeah,
it's great to go to a coffee shop. I love coffee shops, but it's also great to save a little money. And you'd be surprised if you're paying $5-6 a day for coffee. If you can trim that down to $2 because you're making it yourself, that's $4 a day. That's $28 a week. We can go far and far, but that's a good amount of money, and you can take a vacation at the end of the year. So there's always little ways to nickel and dime your way to financial success, and I'll be honest. Sometimes it's better to live life like that. Like there are some weeks where I was like, I don't want to make coffee. I'm just gonna go swing by the coffee shop and grab one because I'm tired. Like I got to just get to class. I woke up at 8:30. Class starts at 9. I barely have time to shower. That's one thing. I never went to class without showering. I don't know how people do it if they do. I just didn't like it, but regardless,
I sure never did. No, yeah, exactly.
So sometimes, and I get that, and you don't want to always nickel and dime because you take the pleasures away from life. But realistically, more often than not, you can afford to do that. And
but also, one of the biggest things I heard being in college is everybody would say, "Oh, I'd really love to do this, but I have no money." But it's like you just spend $6 a day buying a coffee. Well, yeah, I need my coffee. I understand that, but again, if you were to make it for $1 or $2, that'd be $4 per. At the end of the week, you got $20. So then, or whatever you wanted to do. So you don't need to spend $6-7 on a fancy cup of coffee. Well, maybe you quote unquote do, but you really don't.
Well, I remember the way I was doing it was I would go to the shop and get whole beans for $20. Okay.
Yep.
For a bag of, I think it was like 12 ounces or 16, whatever. That would last me about 2 weeks, give or take. And my coffee machine, I think I bought it for $100, and then I got a grinder for Christmas, or not Christmas, graduation, whatever. So both of those things, the grinder probably would have been an extra $50-$60, right? Let's say $160.
Oh, you got a fancy grinder.
Initial capital, as they say in the finance world, right? And $20 a week, or $20 every 2 weeks, that's $10 a week. And I would make a pot of coffee. Okay, so that you could go pour yourself 2 cups, throw the rest in the fridge, pull it out later that afternoon, pour, get a little bit more. You could pretty much be caffeinated all day. And it was literally costing me $10 a week. And it was every day, right? So that, just to give you that idea there, and you get really into it. You really like, ooh, this brew temperature is off. I got to call the coffee maker. So
we're not even that fancy. Like, so my wife and I will have about roughly a cup and a half a day, sometimes maybe 2 each. But we paid $20 for our coffee pot on sale. It's just a really small one. And our grinder was $9.99. So, the grinder's nothing fancy, but it breaks the bean down and it grinds it into fine powder.
Is it a bird grinder?
No.
Oh, dude, it's because the
I
problem
think
with
I think it's a
with the blade.
Sunbeam.
See, the problem with the blade grinder is it doesn't grind them evenly. So you want a burr grinder because it's going to give your surface area of the beans better. Like it's going to give you an even surface area for the beans, so that when the water comes down, it's going to coat them evenly, and then you're going to get a nice full body, rich cup of coffee. Versus here, when it chops it up like that, you get different bean sizes, different like uneven surface area. You're just not going to get the best cup.
I don't know. From the times where I've went to like
What's the brew
second
temperature in your
cuppers,
coffee pot?
it's got one switch on and off. Dude, it's warm, it's hot, it's works for us.
Well, because you know that the best temperature is anywhere from 193 to 197 degrees Fahrenheit.
No, I had no idea.
See, guys, I'm just nickeling and diming you more in here for a minute. All right, but do you have anything else, Lorne, before we bore people with coffee?
Well, if you want to do a brisket, it's 250 to 260 Fahrenheit. You're going to do that for roughly an hour and a half per pound.
See, Lorne can tell you about cooking steak and not going to the steakhouse and paying like $90 for premium steak when you can make one at your house. Right, Lorne?
That's right. I would prefer to eat a steak at home because at least I know it's cooked the way I want it to be, instead of some person when you tell them that you want it medium well and they either well done or medium. So they always screw it up at the end of the day. But I would prefer to smoke something over, going to a steakhouse.
Steakhouse.
Yeah, because, well, you can put an entire chicken in the smoker and away you go, or, a nice brisket, some ribs. So
tremendous.
It is.
But yeah, this started about finance, and now it went into coffee and meat. This is probably the time we should start wrapping it up here. But yeah, just to recap, guys, we talked a little bit about the difference between investment and speculation, and then we kind of moved over to like ways to make sure that you're actually making money, putting money aside that you can afford to lose, and then also finally different little strategies for saving some money that really are, for the most part, painless and can really yield pretty good results.
Yeah, and always make sure that if you're uncomfortable with spending the money, don't do it. And when you have, say, $50-$60 that you want to try to play around with, then go for it if you want to. But there's, again, many ways of saving and creating wealth. So just do some research, and there'll be some that'll be better for others and then just try to, I guess, tailor make it directly for you. Exactly. So to finish everything off, is that everything you needed, Carlos?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a disclaimer again. Don't take this as like sage advice. We're not gods.
Neither of us are wealthy, so
neither of us are registered investment advisors, and like Lorne said, neither of us are wealthy. So we're not your hedge fund managers that you want to take advice from and dropping different stock tips. That's definitely not what we're doing here.
Yeah, if you want to give us a job at a hedge fund, yeah, we'll both take it. No problem.
Call us up. Any of the big funds, I'll take the job. But yeah, guys, remember, double check everything. Take everything anyone tells you with a grain of salt, unless they're like your personal financial advisor, because they should have your best interest in mind. But anything anyone else tells you, take it with a grain of salt, including what we just told you here.
Yeah, for sure. Now, also, we've been spending the last little while really working on our the Lime network and Limelight entry. So we will have a link to post in with the videos and the podcast next week, probably, in regards to where to vote for us. And we will be throwing that all over our social medias. So please definitely share it with your networks. Get us in there for the viewer's choice, because we'd love to win, of course. And
we really appreciate your vote.
Yeah, we would absolutely appreciate it. And if you have any other questions or comments, please email us at blindbanter@gmail.com. You can also find us on Twitter at blindbanter, and we're on Instagram and Facebook as well. So just type that in and you'll be able to find us.
All right. Thanks, Lorne. Thanks, everyone.
And until next time, guys, stay safe and we'll talk soon.